Hello and welcome to Castle of Horror, the show dedicated to horror movies and awesomeness. This week, we wrap up our Ed Wood retrospective with the 1957 film Night of the Ghouls. From Denver, Colorado, I'm your host, Jason Henderson, publisher at Castle Bridge Media. With me from Austin is Tony Salvaggio, tech director at Rooster Teeth, lead singer and bassist of the band Deserts of Mars, and lead guitarist of the band Rise from Fire. Say hello, Tony.
Howdy.
Howdy. Also in Austin, Mr. Drew Edwards is the writer-creator of the long-running underground comic Halloween Man, currently published by Comixology. He is the Ringo nominee, Austin Chronicle Best of Austin Award winner, and a member of the PEN America Fellowship.
And possessor of a full and manly beard currently.
Yes. No, the beard
apparently.
is looking smashing.
And I've had multiple people tell me it makes me intimidating for some reason, even though I assure you that I am the same dork I was a month ago.
It's your slow werewolf transformation.
Very, very slow werewolf transformation.
I really do feel
Bring
like
it on
makes you look like Paul Bunyan. You need a little Will Hat, and somehow the Friday the 13th tattoos really just complete the look. I think it's fabulous. So anyway, welcome Drew. Welcome Paul Bunyan. And finally in Denver, as always, color commentary from attorney Julia Guzman of Guzman Immigration of Denver. Say hello.
Hello.
Okay, Night of the Ghouls. I cannot believe that I watched as much of this and stuff about this as I did. Night of the Ghouls is a horror film written and directed by none other than Ed Wood. The film features some reoccurring cast members and characters from Bride of the Monster, including Tor Johnson as Lobo once again, Paul Marco once again, probably doing more than he's ever done before as Kelton, who appears in all of the movies we have discussed, Plan 9, and Bride of the Monster, and this film. The amazing Criswell doing the frame story. We have a recurring character of Police Captain Robbins, although he's played by a different actor. And this movie, the other thing of note is that this movie was filmed in 1957. Paul Marco said he went to a screening about it. Forrest J. Ackerman wrote about it coming out, and it never came out. It didn't come out until it came out on a video in 1984. This is episode 313 of the Castle of Horror. Let's get some opening thoughts. Let's go Tony, Julia, Drew, and I'll go. Tony, we're wrapping up Ed Wood with Night of the Ghouls. What are your thoughts?
I wish I had enjoyed this as much as the previous ones. Again, it has a lot of cool moments, in my opinion, but it really doesn't gel. And I think also, for better or worse, I think it's definitely when people kind of roll their eyes or act like, oh, Ed Wood movies, those aren't as good. I think they really are looking at this kind of highlights the stuff that I see getting short shrift. And I don't know, it just doesn't gel as well for me, even though I love the ghosts are awesome and the actresses who play them are great. There's some great lines, but it just doesn't work for me as well. And it's frustrating because what Ed Wood can do, and seeing this kind of highlights this movie is I think full of the faults, if you will, and that's kind of a strong word, but I didn't end up enjoying it as much as some of the other movies on the whole. But it's got a bunch of fun moments, and it's worth seeing at least once because it's so bizarre.
Yeah,
there's just so many just weird bits that it's kind of cool. There's a seance with a magic trumpet and some
yes,
skeletons, and Criswell tells everybody's life story each time they're introduced. And gives you as if he's reading, their bio from Wikipedia. So there's that. It's just such a conglomeration of stuff that it's worth seeing because it has all of these hallmarks. But I wish that he was more remembered for the previous movies that we've shown.
Thank you very much. All right. And there's a lot there, and I want to respond to some of it when we get around to it. But Julia, what are your thoughts?
Well, I'm wondering, so I think, as a whole, it's not a great film. Again, I have the same complaint I had before, which is that I feel like there's a lot of things he could have done cheaper or done just as cheaply and done it so much better. For example, they keep focusing on people going in and out of a door that appears to have a hole where there should be the lock, I guess. So there's just like a hole in the door. So clearly it's a door that they kind of just put in, but they didn't finish installing it. And for some reason, that's the door they keep using for all the close-ups of people going in and out of doors. And and there are a lot of other doors in this movie. So I'm like, why didn't you use one of the other doors? Anyway, stuff like that where I'm just like, this was not an expensive fix. Why is it that your anti-perfectionism is so deep in this film? But there are some interesting things, like Tony said, and I'm wondering if some of these things don't inspire later films and later directors. Like I actually think David Lynch might have gotten some inspiration from some of the stuff in this film, and I also think that the movie Ghost might have been a little bit inspired by this film. Anyway, so there are some neat things that are memorable and that stand out, but it doesn't really hold together in terms of any kind of I guess there's kind of a plot, but it's very loose plot, and it's not I don't know. Actually, I take that back. There is a plot. There's clearly a plot, but it's kind of all over the place, and definitely it needed to be edited by somebody who cared about having things be good, or just maybe film a couple, because I know that he only would take like one take for most things and then just go, okay, that's fine. I feel like there could have been some other things, and the sound was, I don't know if the sound was like that originally, but it's just really distracting because when we watched it, it was there's just this humming kind of staticky sound all the time.
And I don't know if that's on the original film
or if it's just
we saw.
Yeah, because it is a found film. It was kind of hidden away in a lab because Ed Wood had never been able to pay his bills. So it was for years and years and years, nobody ever saw this film. And then this film historian found it and was like, oh, I think I will release this film. So it's kind of interesting. So that could be why, is that they just didn't have it might have deteriorated.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you. So much to talk about. Drew, what are your thoughts?
Can I retroact? I remember when we were talking last week about this, or Orgy of the Dead, and I was watching this movie, and I was like, we could have been watching a hot Vampiro lookalike and go-go dancers right now.
Yes.
And instead I'm watching this.
I don't know, man. That or Ghost Trumpet. It's hard to sell.
Yeah. So I also, like Tony and Julia, I enjoyed Plan 9, and I enjoyed Bride of the Monster. I enjoyed Bride of the Monster quite a bit, actually. This was not weird enough, or honestly, even though it has like the badness that people think of as Ed Wood, like it didn't have as much of like the Ed Wood like kinkiness or fixations in it to me. So it just didn't hold my attention. And there's this movie where I just found myself nodding off to sleep. I did love some visual stuff that I thought was cool, like Tony said, the ghosts and like the seance scene, and Tor Johnson's makeup was pretty cool, but Tor Johnson was even kind of underused in this. And Kelton the cop was fun, but he felt like he had escaped from a livelier movie.
Yeah,
like everybody else was like, all the other actors seemed so sleepy. He was the only one that was really kind of bringing a lot of personality. And not that I would call him an amazing actor, but he was like, he seemed like he could have been an extra in like Abbott and Costello meet Tor Johnson or something. Yeah, but right. Like I don't know, like I just was this movie, and I after kind of digging Bride of the Monster, like on a like totally sincere level, like this movie kind of let me down.
Yeah, I would have liked, I think if I had to go back in time, I would have done this, then Plan 9, then Bride of the Monster, and then we could have ended on, oh yeah, okay.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, if that's the case, if what you want is to feel better about this movie, then I am here to cheer you up, because I think there are reasons to embrace this movie. But first, I want to point out Kelton, Paul Marco playing Kelton. The funny thing about him is his performance is literally no worse and just as good as any of the comedic stuff in like any of the American International beach party movies. Absolutely. Would be completely at home there. There's the sort of mugging.
Yeah, my favorite thing in the whole movie is when he goes, "I resign." Yeah. He just kind of like puts his hands on his knees and like bends down. It was
He
so funny.
is fabulous, and it's funny how critics will take time to go, he's always messing up his lines, and it's just that you'd mess up a line, and Ed Wood will never go back and film it twice. I do believe that, Tony, you were saying, I think this is what people think of when they think of a bad Ed Wood movie. Yes and no. I mean, to some extent that's true, but also this movie's so obscure that nobody thinks of this movie. I mean, honestly, when people think of Ed Wood...
Except they did copy the beginning and end of this movie with Cresswell for the Tim Burton film.
Right.
Well, that's true. That's totally true. And I will say, by the way, that the end of this movie kicks ass. It is like something out of a Twilight Zone episode that I really dug. I liked that. I like the payoff. And in this movie, I found that the weirdness of it, and the fact that so many times characters are just floating in space, and you can't figure out like where they are in connection with anything else that you're seeing. That's
the case with the other films
as well. But this one I really felt more so. There are so many times when you just literally cannot work out. Like in Bride of the Monster was only towards the end, and you got the impression it was because he was running out of money. In this one, you kind of realize this guy is yanking our chain. I mean, Ed Wood could make perfectly adequate choices in like how to frame, how to set up an establishing shot, and then show you where you are in relation to where else you are. And the reason I know that he can do that is because I also watched the 20-minute movie called Final Curtain, much of which he just lifted and stuck into this movie because he didn't want that stuff to go to waste. And that stuff had lots of like establishing shots and all of the things that you would learn to do. In other words, when he makes these choices, I really do believe, and maybe I've just gone down the rabbit hole, but I really believe that all of this is on purpose, and he is he's a full-on, what's the word I'm looking for? He's an absurdist. He's a surrealist, and for some reason...
I did not find this movie to be surreal.
He did not find this movie to be surreal?
I did not. I think Plan 9 is surreal and very dreamy. Other than like the weird stuff during the seance, no. I just found this to be kind of a... I actually feel
what
like
I'm
this
talking
was
about...
less of that than yeah, I get what you're saying, the sort of meanderingness of it, but like I can put on a bunch of other horror films that are low budget of the same era that have that same vibe. Like I didn't actually I feel like this is, in a lot of ways, even though like again it has the badness, I feel like this was the least Ed Wood of the Ed Wood movies that we watched, because I didn't feel like it had a lot of personality, and that was my problem with it.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start going through it and see if, and maybe I'm off my rocker. I mean, because
you're allowed to think what you think.
Yeah, but if the thing is that the reason that I want to pull back from the notion that Ed Wood is just David Lynch is that I think if you asked him, he wouldn't explain it that way. But I'm just saying, like, it is fascinating to me that because of the choices he could probably figure out ways to make it look like the detective is following the Swami down the hallway without making it look like they are floating in space for long periods of time, and he just chooses to do it that way. And that's just him making choices. I mean, these are choices, because I've seen plenty of cheap movies that at least what's going on, and with Ed, he's always making weird choices that are fascinating. Okay, so let's just start. The plot of this one, we start out spending time at the police station. In Ed Wood's universe, the police are sometimes fumbling, but they are always to be trusted. Ed Wood spends some time explaining to us all the problems with America today. I think he's just padding, but he's like, what's going on today? Terrible stuff. And I know what you're thinking. It could be juvenile delinquency. And then he spends some time on that. Don't you love this? All of a sudden there's like these young people doing the jitterbug and like beating one another up and by the train tracks and all this stuff. And then Criswell goes, but that's not what we're talking about today.
Again, that's probably padding I mean, it's almost like I don't know, political ad, but just like in a world today,
yes,
look at what the kids are doing.
Yeah, I mean, they seem to be having fun. The first part, he's like, juvenile delinquency, and they're just like at a malt shop, doing the twist. That's it. And then he's like, and people die in cars. And I mean, seriously, it's people die in cars all of a sudden, and like this 1948 Roadster just flies off a cliff.
See what the jitterbug does? You start moving like that, and then there's rock and roll, and you've had just one too many malts, and then car off a cliff.
Yes. Oh my God.
It bears out. I don't know what you're talking about. Like,
but then he goes,
three
no,
malts
it was
too
that
many.
fateful day at the police station. And then the police station scene, I think, is probably literally the worst scene in the whole film. And again, I'm a defender of this movie, but this is the scene that does not hold up very well because a lot happens. People come in and go out. A drunk guy just comes in and then turns around and walks out. In this police station, the camera is sort of on, I can only imagine it's like on a high tripod, and Ed does not move the camera at all. So all these actors are just like in a play. They're just doing their dialogue and moving around and stuff. And it's difficult for us as the viewer to follow what's happening or to understand who we're supposed to be looking at or listening to.
Well, that's why I started out saying that there wasn't much of a plot, but then I realized that once you get past this part, there's a plot. You just got to get past the part where there's no plot.
So into the police.
Well, I mean, but there is the stuff with the black ghost that introduces all of that as well.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Well, there's a flashback, and the old people are riding in their car, and they see, and we established that we're in the universe of the Bride of the Monster because there's the lake.
I have
Please.
sequelness of this. This Bride of the Monster. This takes place in L.A. Like it says L.A. Los Angeles Police Department. Bride of the Monster took place somewhere where there was a swamp with like
the Florida Everglades, right?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure it was still shot in Los Angeles, but like,
no, you're right. They showed like images of the Everglades, and alligators and stuff. Yeah, there's all kinds of retconning going on. It is the Bride of the Monster world.
Is the detective that was the hero in this supposed to be the same as like the guy from the first movie? It's
completely retconned how that movie went. That's what's crazy, is that he is Lieutenant Bradford, and they established that he handled the guy out at the lake who was making monsters and blew up his house, and that this guy, Duke Moore, Lieutenant Bradford, crawled through a skylight and took care of the mad scientist and the monster, and that the house was destroyed, although recently it has been rebuilt, and I am not making this up, as a dilapidated old mansion next to the lake. Somebody has put it back together in the same dilapidated shape that it was before.
Because that's what you do when you rebuild a house. You're like, we want it to look as authentic as possible.
But that's not how historic preservation works.
It's so crazy. So they're like, okay, people are seeing spooks, monsters out there. So and I'm sure I'm forgetting things, but regardless, yeah, the captain sends out Lieutenant Dan Bradford, the manly man.
Lieutenant
walks
Dan.
In.
Dan.
Lieutenant Dan, and he is wearing a tuxedo because he has tickets to the opera. And by the way, I know exactly why this choice was made, and it's obvious as we go on. But here at this point, and for the rest of the movie, even if you don't know why, and it's to match footage that Wood already had, but I love it. I mean, it made me realize I wish that every main character were like on the way to the opera so he could be in a tuxedo for the rest of the
Well, he also he's like, I have opera tickets. You know how long it took me to get these opera tickets?
Yes.
What are you doing? Why am I?
He's in the car with his girlfriend, whom we never see.
I guess a cab takes her home or something because.
Well, no, her apartment's on the way to the haunted lake.
Oh, right.
That's right.
Yeah.
I like
that's
to think
right.
3 days later, she's just like, I'm so hungry. I wish you would get back.
Lieutenant Dan, come back.
So this is the point when the plot actually starts.
It kicks in at this point.
Yeah, it kicks in. Everything else before this, I pretty much forgot that it happened, even though we just watched it last night. You were saying all that. I'm like, really? I don't remember that. Okay, I kind of remember the drunk guy, but anyway. So yeah, he shows up at this house thinking there's not going to be anybody there, and he just walks in, and this Swami, fortune teller dude comes out. Yes. And he says, like, I can't remember the exact words, but it's like, that's rude. You just walk him to somebody's house.
Right.
So it was kind of funny. And then we just kind of go from there with trying to figure out, like, we have a ghost, a white ghost, a white dressed ghost, what's called the white ghost, who apparently Jason says played by a 15-year-old girl.
Yeah, her name is Valda Hansen, and she's a very beautiful 15-year-old actress who Ed Wood liked when he saw her in a play that he caught that she was doing, and he said, "Come be the white ghost in this movie that I'm making. You should bleach your hair to be blonde, because you look better blonde."
And then she freaks out at one point when she sees a real ghost, who is the black dressed ghost, who we believe is played by Ed Wood, credited as
so let's take a moment about this.
Jeannie, what's the last name?
The actress is called Jeannie.
I can't believe I forgot. I was just looking it up. Anyway, the point is that it's up for debate whether or not this is actually Ed Wood in drag. Ed Wood is definitely in drag as this character later on, for sure.
They credit a woman named Jeannie Stevens as the black ghost and the mannequin. But
she appears
I have
not
also
to exist. And it
first of all, there's
Ed
no
Wood.
reference to Jeannie Stevens in any other things except for this work. And second, Ed Wood. So my argument is there is no Jeannie Stevens. Jeannie Stevens is Ed Wood, and that's okay, but there are people who
yes, Ed Wood's alter ego.
Yes, because I don't know. Ed was actually not that pretty a man, but he makes a very pretty ghost. He looks fine, and so I don't know.
The black ghost costume is still really cool looking, and
all of that,
black ghost
all
and
the
the white
ghosts
ghost
in the
look very silent movie era. Like they play up that costuming a lot. I think it works really well. It's
all the
awesome.
stuff with the ghosts is the coolest looking stuff in this movie.
Yeah.
Like if you're gonna say like what is the reason for this movie to exist? Like we said with Plan 9, the images of Vampira and Tor Johnson wandering into the cemetery are cool looking still images. I would give the black ghost and the white ghost, as that for this. Like they look great.
Yeah, as opposed to the person in a sheet that runs by with the slide whistle during the seances.
Well, and the thing is,
loud too.
Looking at Lieutenant Dan, the way he takes his head, he shakes his head and rolls his eyes and does everything so that Ed makes it clear that we, the audience, are supposed to understand that looks silly. That's Ed Wood saying, that looks silly, my ghosts look cool. Because it's clear that Dr. Acula is a con artist.
Dr. Acula. It's so dumb.
But and the thing is, I'm so excited about the payoff of this movie that I actually will forgive a great deal. But the deal is Dan's like, Lieutenant Dan's like, yeah, I'm going to stick around and see what's going on with Dr. Acula. Oh, I found out really quickly that he's a medium. He's quick on his feet, this Lieutenant Dan, because he immediately goes, okay, well, I'd like to talk to the dead. And Dr. Acula's like, well, yeah.
Talk about how he's not like non-traditional. He's not a cop. He's like a ghost hunter.
Yes. Yeah, that's true.
That's the thing. And we find this out in one of the many introductions where you get basically, and then today he ate a sandwich followed by a light salad. And then he drove around for approximately 2.4 minutes before parking beside a parking meter. His uncle's name is Fred, and they live in a ranch home. And you're just...
yes,
it's just a constant. And I know
he's
it's expedite certain things, but there's all the things that I think when people want to disparage his Ed Wood's creative process or his final his movies, this is the kind of thing that they go to. I still disagree somewhat with that, but
when
these things happen, I think it adds to that fuel, and that's a shame because I think he does a lot of cool stuff.
That is an excellent question, though, because then it goes: do you judge somebody by their best work or their most memorable work, or the thing that stands out to, or do you judge them by worst? Which I would hope, and this is going back to the thing that we've talked about a lot during this journey that we've been on, which is like how, as a creative, would I like to be remembered? And I think everybody else on the podcast would agree with me. I would hope that somebody, when they're stacking what I've created together, they would start on the stuff that was my best and not immediately be basing things off of the most incompetent, of which sure there is stuff that is incompetent.
I think that the thing that I think of when you say that is there's a some kind of statistic or I don't know, just a number that people throw out of how many positive interactions you have to have to kind of overcome an abuse. You know what I mean? Like if a child is abused one time and then there's all these thousands of positive things that have to happen before they can really not just be completely traumatized by this abuse or something to that effect. But the point is, you get abused once. You have one thing that happens that's really terrible, and that is so huge a part of what I'm not going to say like creates who you are, but rather like kind of the trauma, you know. And so then all these other, so that's the thing. I think when you judge somebody by their worst work, it's because that's the thing that sort of, it's not quite a trauma, but it's the thing that sort of sticks with you if they've done a lot of decent stuff. Now, if they've done something super outstanding, that might stand out enough to also at least balance out, if not overcome, the bad thing. But I think that's might be where that comes from. Is you just, when things are really bad, sometimes you remember them way more than anything that's just average, but hopefully not more than something that's incredible.
I mean, it's a really solid point. I mean, when someday when people are writing the remembrance of, say, Sean Connery, I think people will go, "Oh, I remember what a great James Bond he was. He really he made a mark on pop culture."
But also that he was an abusive jerk.
Maybe, but I wasn't even thinking about that. I was thinking about the work, and they're not going to remember really terrible. They're not going to say, but then Highlander too. You know, it just won't even get mentioned. So I suppose, you know, that's true. But coming back,
was that you trying to low key suggest that we do Highlander 2 on this show? Because I might have to draw the line at the Highlander.
There should have been only one.
Yes.
No, I saw that in the theater, and that was enough.
It's one of those movies that's embarrassing along the way, where you're just embarrassed by all the choices that are being made. And the funny thing is, like I say, Ed is making choices that I'm not as embarrassed by the choices that Ed Wood is making here as I was watching an expensive movie like Highlander 2, honestly. Because Ed Wood, in the end, often looks like he is staging a play at a very, very cheap community theater and filming it, and then doing his best to sell it into distribution. Like that's the best way that I could kind of explain.
I mean, I think it would be awesome to have people do a bunch of these movies as plays. They would work really well.
Yeah. In fact, to go back for a moment to, you know, so Lieutenant Dan decides, hey, I'm going to check out what Dr. Acula is doing, because yes, he's a ghost hunter. Excellent point. But he's also apparently he's kind of a ghost breaker specialist. He's you know, like Houdini. He's out to get rid of con men. And Dr. Acula is one of these guys. And Ed Wood, it's interesting that this just is it's the very special episode of the Ed Wood show where now we're going to learn about con artists who bilk people out of their money with a bunch of cheesy seance effects. The funny thing is, Ed Wood creates this very fake looking seance, but he makes it look so groovy that it's still super interesting, even though we are meant to understand that all of it is fake. All of its props, the floating trumpet, the slide whistle, and the dumb looking ghost in the sheet, you know, is all intended to be a staged seance that the people around his seance table are looking at.
If you want to talk about choices, let's talk about let's talk about why all of these choices are the ones that sell a seance.
Yeah.
What, like when you could go crystal ball and maybe, you know,
yeah. What does he have? He has the table. He's got skull and crystal ball.
Weird ass, and I don't even understand. Like, did he just have footage of a black guy doing really bizarre, like, you know, mouthing weird words and what was that? It was so strange.
It is unnerving, you know.
Yeah, it is. But I'm just wondering how that came to be.
It's the pre-zombie,
yes,
from Pee-wees.
And-
It's so
and then-
yeah, no, all of that's weird, but Dr. Acula's like, well, the way to really build people out of money is to have a floating trumpet and then a sheet with this annoying as hell slide whistle.
Yeah.
And these are these are the things that really sell
Well,
some
we have
skeletons.
some skeletons that we could sit around the table.
Yeah.
For no reason.
So
right.
Hey, his crystal ball has a skull in it. Pure.
It's pretty great.
Crystal ball with a skull.
And his chair has like 2 skulls on either side.
see that part, yes, but he makes a lot of choices that I've never seen in any other kind of fake seance stuff. Right. And they are fascinating as far as like when you make a plan to bilk people out of money.
Yeah.
And that's your plan. Yeah, that's interesting. I also find it fascinating that around this time you had a bunch of guys like, older white guys who have decided a turban is the perfect thing to appropriate to show that you're truly a swami.
Yeah.
Yeah, who started that? Because that's the Johnny Carson thing, but I don't know who started
Even
it.
Criswell didn't wear a turban. I don't know. I have
the first time I remember CL was Abbott and Costello meet Boris Karloff, and Boris Karloff plays a evil psychic in that, and he wears a turban. But surely that was still parroting something.
Yeah.
The other thing that's weird, you talk about ages of people. When Criswell's given his he talks about the people, he always gives their age. So we are being led to believe that Lieutenant Dan here is 40 years old.
Yeah.
That is like 40 going on.
That's absurd.
60.
That guy looks 60, honestly.
Yeah.
He what you missed the cut where it's like, and he's 40. He smokes 7 packs of cigarettes a day.
It's true. It was 1959, so that's good.
Well, I mean, I guess see, he also is very stressed out about all of the times he can't go to the opera. Thanks, Criswell, for filling all that in. That does make sense that he looks 60. You don't know how much red meat that he also eats.
Check this out. I just wanted to let you know. It says here.
Than me.
Sorry. Good.
2 years.
What's that?
That makes him 2 years younger than me.
He's not 40, but he's not 60.
Who has decided to grow a beard recently.
He's 44. In other words, he's
44.
He's 5 years younger than me.
He does not look good for 44. I'm sorry.
No,
he's not aged well. He probably does smoke a pack of cigarettes a day.
Like I said, for 44, he looks great for 60. He really does. 60 years old. Now, according to Wikipedia, the young lady who played Valda Hansen, according to Wikipedia, is not 15. So one book I found says that she was 15, but according to Wikipedia, she was born in 1932, which would make her at least in her mid-20s by the time this movie's being made. So
she's would be a little mature looking for a 15-year-old. Like I could buy her as 25, but like while we're talking about possible age discrepancies here,
right.
So as far as the turban goes, I guess it's just that they're following the Sikh path, because I'm looking at the thing that says from the time of the first Sikh master, wearing a turban was part of the unique spiritual path that would become Sikh Dharma. So I guess they just at whatever point white directors and white actors decided to start having psychics, they went, let's make them like kind of Sikh-like.
Well, I mean, clearly it's just exoticized. It doesn't mean a damn thing to these white directors. It's not.
No, well, I mean, that's the whole thing. It is supposed to be this exotic. It's a whole let's appropriate quote unquote Orientalism.
Yeah, it's exotic. It's exoticized.
That
I should say. Yeah.
Let's have this. This is this is foreign, and looking at it now, oh man, but for real.
What I find interesting about this Dr. Acula thing is it seems like he's having these people he's scamming with live with him, at least temporarily, which is a weird part of the con because it means he has to be on as this character, all the time.
He would have, I mean, the benefit is that if this is culty thing where it's like, okay, old widow steward she's going to come live on the compound so that we can like just basically just get all the information we can about her and get her into our spell and figure out who among my cast of actors will best be able to play her husband getting up from a coffin and saying some stuff, and who's going to be the gigolo who's supposed to marry her and get her money. None of those details are really worked out, although I do like the fact that Dr. Acula, occasionally we have at least a couple scenes where he drops into the hallway and talks with one of the other con artists, and these are like bad guys in the Lone Ranger. I mean, really, truly, it's their dialogue gives you everything. Like, as soon as that sheriff gets here, we're going to have to get out of town. By that time, we'll have $10,000 in our pocket. I love all of that stuff. It's just, again, it is straight Lone Ranger, Gene Autry, pure, these are the bad guys, backstage kind of stuff.
I mean, I guess, depends on if they're, paying for this. It's like if you had a resort where people came to the resort and paid for the resort, and then you also got money out of them through, a seance.
Yeah, that's the fraud part.
Well.
Just so we're clear. The cheat. If it were done the funny thing is, if it were just a resort where you also went to seances and it was just a ridiculously expensive entertainment, no fraud. That's fine.
Right, but no, I'm saying like if you make them pay double, so you have them pay for the resort or wherever wherever this, hardly think of it as a resort, but if you did have that, and then you that was part of the package, and then because of that you got extra money out of them through the fraud part. That's a kind of pretty good double scam there from Dr. Acula.
Yeah, Dr. Acula.
I'm gonna make a character named Dr. Acula Card. Just go full on. His first name Acula, last name Card.
What were we thinking, Julia? You were trying to come up with like other ways that you could present your name so that maybe,
well, it'd be like Dr. A. Kula,
like Dr. Alex Kula, like Dr. Kula, Alex Kula.
Yeah,
and some halfway through somebody would go, wait a minute, Dr. A. Kula. Oh my God!
Right,
yeah,
exactly. But you might as well also have the card part where it's spelled backwards. Double down, triple down on it.
Dr. A. Kula Alucard.
Right. Dr. Alar Card. Yeah. Acula Card. Why not?
Yes. So let's see. So basically you've got Drew, thank you for pointing that out, that this con is a really complicated con with a lot of actors that Dr. Acula is. So far this is really basically
Lobo. I feel like while we're talking about his crew, he's got Lobo, who apparently survived being basically melted from the looks of things at the end of Bride of the Monster, and yet he doesn't really do much of anything with him.
No,
I find
he's probably pulling all the strings that make all the trumpets go. Oh. You don't like his he's got him on slide whistle in the back.
I find it odd that Wood brought back Tor Johnson.
Right.
Yeah.
And the makeup is actually, for the time period, pretty impressive.
I agree.
And yet he hardly uses him. And I was really disappointed in that. Because he looks, just as a monster, he looks terrific.
Maybe he just couldn't afford him anymore.
Yeah.
Like he could only afford that many minutes.
Or he only had X amount of, but like the makeup was, expensive or time consuming.
Yeah.
And so he just decided not to do that very often.
One of Tor Johnson's adult sons actually appears later as one of the ghosts that drags that drags Dr. Acula to hell.
And they had said in the other film that Tor Johnson was allergic to the scar, so maybe that was the problem. Maybe he started using the makeup and then he had terrible allergy to it. I'm not sure. I didn't see that anywhere.
We have nothing to go on here. So there's something else. So while all this is going on, Criswell says, basically, okay, henchman comes by, whispers in Dr. Acula's ear, says stuff is going on outside. There's a cop out there. And Lieutenant Dan takes that took that opportunity to look around, and so he goes off, and now we're treated to some actually pretty wild footage where Lieutenant Dan goes up and down weird hallways and climbs stairs and looks at a skylight that apparently he parachuted through, like James Bond in the last episode, like completely retconning how things went in Bride of the Monster. Not that anybody cares.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that there was a rabid fan base for Bride of the Monster back in the
Right.
day. Probably pissed off about the lack of continuity. It's just, as a modern, that's totally me looking at this modern eye and expected. Even though I don't do that with like Godzilla movies or Universal Monsters or anything else who has like loose continuity with each other.
Well, yeah, I mean, continuity in today's world is so different because we can see things over and over. We can pause them. We can watch them back to back. Back then, you wouldn't have, like he said, nobody's going to notice. If they notice, it's going to go by and that's it. Like they're not going to see it again ever.
Yes.
So it's not going to, none of it matters because you can't go back and go, wait a minute, what did they say in that first? Didn't they say something different in that first film? Let's back it up or let's play it,
right
again.
Right. So, and also sometimes you just retcon because you can. And he's got this footage, including this skylight, and he's like, heck, I'm going to say that he came through the skylight because that sounds pretty awesome. So this is the wild thing that I figured out today. All of this stuff, which does look at more high contrast black and white, it has a different look about it. All this stuff with him exploring around is all footage from the television pilot Final Curtain that Ed Wood shot with this same actor, Duke Moore, wearing a tuxedo because he played an actor who was playing Dracula, playing a vampire in a tuxedo in a play. And now after the curtains have gone down, he's hunting through the theater for some object that he's not sure what it is. And it's a very sort of surreal, weird, spooky story that Ed Wood was hoping to sell as a pilot for like a Twilight Zone kind of thing. You can watch the entire film on YouTube, and he didn't sell it. But anyway, so he uses almost all of it here, including the dang scene where he comes across a mannequin room and opens it up, and a blonde mannequin is staring at him. And I can't remember if in the movie, in Night of the Ghouls, does he go up and touch the mannequin? Does anybody recall?
Yes, he definitely touches it because he goes, the skin is soft, it feels really real, and the like everything looks real. But yeah, he definitely touches the cheek of the mannequin.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yes. And so that happens, and then he backs back out, and then as he's turning around, the mannequin smiles at him.
Yeah. And then starts beckoning him, like starts waving, like, come on.
I don't remember the beckoning. All I remember is the
or is that the ghost in the woods? One of them. One of the ones that we think is Ed Wood beckons him, but I can't remember if it's the mannequin or the ghost in the woods. But it's
I can't remember about the beckoning. That might be happening, but regardless, I love this whole thing with the mannequin. This is like truly trippy. There's no reason for it to be here. It's weird. And also it indicates that there's something supernatural going on in the building, because up to this moment, we are in what everybody understands to be a Scooby-Doo story where there seem to be ghosts, but it's actually a crook. But now, no, there's a mannequin that was a mannequin and now seems to be alive. And so that's cool. I mean, I like that, and then the movie goes straight off the rails, and it's very difficult for me to describe what happens in the rest of the plot, except for that very soon, after Lieutenant Dan is captured and then not captured, there's this, basically, all I know is we eventually get to the scenario where Dr. Acula, it turns out, is a powerful psychic who has actually raised the spooks after all, and they are here to reward him, and I'm not making this up, by dragging him to hell.
Well, that's why I say that I think it's inspired by Ghost, because Ghost inspired by this, because that's exactly what happens to Whoopi Goldberg. Because she's been
no, it happens to the president from Scandal. It happens.
No, that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about them getting pulled to into the netherworld. I'm talking about that Whoopi Goldberg has been conning people, and then suddenly a real ghost is able to get through to her, and she's like, "Whoa! I didn't know that I could actually channel really ghosts. My family had this gift, but I just pretended to have it." And so then at the end,
you remember Ghost really well.
Oh yeah, I've seen the movie a bunch. bunch of times. At the end, all of these other ghosts are now talking through her because they've figured out that she can channel. So she's like, oh my god. So she doesn't get killed, but she does have this life of like of being haunted constantly by ghosts who want them to communicate, who want her to communicate with their loved ones on Earth. But anyway, yes. Other than the getting dragged, and then you're right. The president.
Yes.
Tony, what's his name? Goldwyn.
Yes.
Yeah, he gets sucked into the bowels of
But
hell.
I mean, guys, didn't you think that this was pretty effective when Dr. Acula goes into that room and there's like, and the white ghost, they go into that room, there are a couple of con artists and there's Criswell and a bunch of ghouls.
And the ghouls have it. That's what I really liked that effect because I thought those ghosts did look a little bit ghostly, but mostly the guy sounds ghostly. Like, yeah, they actually had a really nice sound effect going for that.
Yeah. I was a little confused that Cresswell was both the narrator and this ghost. I thought that was a little like, I know that Cresswell was like the celebrity that was in this movie, so like they're probably trying to use him as much as possible, but I kind of wish that and I know I'm asking for absurd because it's an Ed Wood movie, and and this is the first one out of the 3 that we've done where I've just kind of thrown my hands up in the air and go, okay, it's an Ed Wood movie, but like that was just like a bridge too far for me. Like,
you're kidding me?
Yeah. Like, my suspension of disbelief wasn't there. I was like, why is
you're kidding me?
Why is he the narrator and the ghost? That's stupid.
But if he's the ghost, maybe that's how he knows everything about everybody.
I guess
I'm with you.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that that's not really why.
He introduces himself as as the amazing Cresswell at the beginning.
I'm okay with it.
But he comes out of a coffin. He comes out of a coffin when he's at the beginning.
Exactly.
Fair enough. But either he's a ghost or he's the amazing Cresswell.
He's the amazing Criswell ghost. Why can't he be both?
I mean, he's a ghost. He's a ghost now because he's dead.
But he's the amazing Criswell. I think he's the amazing Criswell ghost at the time. I think Tony's right. He comes out of a coffin. I think that settles it.
I mean, like I said, I freely admit that I'm being, ridiculous about this. Like, I don't know why that this movie just got under my skin so much more than the other 2. Like, the other 2 I thought were dreamy and weird and kinky and interesting, whereas this one was like, this is just a stupid Z-grade movie, and it like I don't like a lot of the choices here.
Okay, I can accept that. I feel like if you were watching Dukes of Hazzard and they're wandering through a bar and there's this guy singing a ballad and suddenly Waylon Jennings is there and he like shakes hands and he knows the Duke boys, that would not bother me in the slightest. That all of a sudden...
it's you know what that is? You just described the Big Lebowski.
What do you mean?
Because what's his name?
Are you saying Criswell is Sam Elliott?
Yes, Criswell Sam Elliott, exactly. Because Sam Elliott narrates and he's at the bar.
You know what? I don't know if what you said quite saves this movie for me, but I can. I think that is a very smart rebuttal of what I am saying, though. I concede to your point.
Great.
You also can't disprove that since Criswell's a ghost now, that he's not narrating to other people about exactly what you're doing.
He's a ghost
once again eating a hot dog, has now gone to his car.
So those people that you see that are standing on the corner talking to themselves and they don't have earbuds, they don't have anything in their ear, they're actually talking to Criswell.
They're talking to Criswell.
Yeah, they're talking about they're narrating.
Love that.
And on June 3rd, he went
You're totally right, by the way.
Out to his car to find some change because he needed it to get to the vending machine.
I mean, there's a point where for no reason it's like, Kelton, 4 years with the police department and no one appreciates him.
That's what I'm saying.
That's why he resigns.
There's this great moment
he resigns
in the movie.
And then he's still in it later. He's still there. I'm like, wait a minute, didn't you resign earlier?
It would be even worse, though, if Criswell narrated to you what you were doing.
Yes.
Like if you had the affliction where he just goes, and now you're going to the refrigerator. I know him. How would you stop it?
This is what I'm saying about the people that talk to themselves and aren't talking on the phone. Because now, of course, everybody... Before it was if you were talking to yourself, you were just talking to yourself. And now you could be talking on the phone. But those guys are talking to Criswell going, no, dude, I don't need you to tell me.
What Tony is describing is more like if Criswell were an unwelcome like a house guest who you hadn't figured out how to get to leave, and so
Right.
he's just hanging out in your kitchen.
Exactly.
Narrating your every move.
You know,
Yes.
you bring up Kelton, and I think Kelton is my favorite thing about this movie.
Yes.
He's great.
Like I
like
wish it had been
It's hilarious.
as
Oh my
much
God, he
about-
runs into a tree.
Yes, and he's just so over it as somebody that is a character that is the glue of this universe, and now has been in 3 of these Edward, and he references all of them.
Yeah.
He talks about like
That's awesome.
spacemen and monsters, and he's just had it with being in B grade horror movies. He just wants to be a regular cop and eat donuts, and
I got a couple
No, and
thoughts.
he's like, I need backup. Why? Because there's ghosts. The other cop's like, dude.
I
There's a
bet
moment in the
Agent
movie-
Salvaggio in Jason's comic
Yeah.
feels this way.
Hey, Tony,
I'm
in the
constantly
most recent
getting
book I
spikes in
did,
my face.
I actually, the most recent book I did, I actually included Tony Salvaggio as the accountant. The
nice.
guy writes to his kid, says, "If you don't hear from me, our accountant is Tony Salvaggio."
You know, you're gonna upset Drew. You have to include Drew in something.
I will not made it in life until Jason Henderson kills me.
Okay, all right. I think we can work out.
I
work
want to
something
be
out.
like one of the you need to kill one of the terrorists. Better be named Drew.
Yeah.
That you run over with a lawnmower gruesomely.
Yeah.
And his beard.
Oh, did I
gets
tell you
stuck in
about
the
this?
blade.
Did you hear that there was a lawnmower scene in this movie?
No,
Wow.
I just guessed
Because it's a
would-
farm, right? And so
Yeah.
what are you going to do?
I mean,
Yeah.
if I were to kill terrorists, I would do it with a lawnmower.
Yeah. Technically, they call it a brush hog, but it is indeed a lawnmower. But the
I mean, well, that's bigger than a lawnmower. That's like the
Well-
back of the whole thing. It's like a lawnmower you haul around in your tractor. We used to use that.
yeah, you carry it on the back of it, but you can use a little tractor now. But anyway, So, but back to
Drew Edwards,
Kelton.
his life cut short by a brush hog.
Every time, just think about every time I have contradicted you on the podcast, and just put that in the scene where you get to brutally murder
The funny thing is,
me.
I have no memory of that at all.
Brutally
okay.
murder me, Jason, so I can feel better about myself.
I'll do what I can. We'll come up with something.
Do what you can. You're God in this universe.
Right.
You can make that choice.
So,
I just know. Despite the fact that I turn my stuff in on time, I just know you love Julia and Tony more than me.
Oh, that's terrible. Now you've got to kill. Now you've got to kill him,
hurts.
Jason.
It's my
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead.
That's
I'm
your
going to go ahead
birthday
and say that I do hope that he loves me more than you guys.
no,
but
wait
I
a minute.
don't
Hang on. So,
I
think
are
he
you
loves
saying
me
that if I want to rename the terrorist, one of the terrorists who dies, Drew Edwards, you will not be upset with me for using the name Drew Edwards?
Are you kidding?
Okay.
I will be
He's begging you.
ecstatic.
All right.
You're forgetting like how now?
So okay. So that means that currently the terrorist is called Brian McMurtry, which is just a made-up name.
It's a
Maybe that
terrible
could be
name.
Drew Edwards. So
Drew Edwards is much better.
Much
Sounds
better.
much more like a terrorist.
okay, but getting back to Kelton.
No,
things
it's
about
just better. Even better, he can be Dr. Edwards.
Yes.
Dr. Acula Edwards.
It'll just be Dr. A. Edwards, and then you'll be a D.A. Edwards.
Well, no, it could be Dr.
Ooh.
Ewards
It can be
because
Dr.
it's
Ooh.
Dr. Ooh because the first 2 letters have to be like you just cut them off. Dr. Ooh
Dr. Ooh.
words like
Dr. Edwards.
because the first 2
Awesome.
were doctor.
That's funny.
And we lost your daughter. This
Oh,
is
that's
the thing
okay.
He had enough.
This is the thing that pushed
I mean,
her
that
out.
makes sense.
She's gonna be like, Dad, why does your friend Drew want you to kill him?
I know she totally gets our weird relationship with each other. That's pretty funny.
For the listener, our 18-year-old has been listening in from
She was listening in from college. No, she's not. She gave up.
X amount of people go, yeah, I'm with her. I dropped out there. I dropped out there too.
What we learned today
Kelton.
from certain politicians' tax returns is that by having Sophia on the show, we could actually now transfer some of our money over to Sophia and count it as an expense. And
From the money that we're making for the show?
No,
we don't,
because
we don't make any money for the show.
none of that works unless you're rich enough. That's basically.
Yeah, I guess
Right.
that's the answer.
And if you make money on the show, theoretically.
I don't know. It all depends. Like maybe she's a consultant or a life
Wait,
coach.
I mean, you guys aren't hosting fake Castle of Horror seances and making money off of that. I mean, not that I am.
We should.
Right,
at all.
exactly.
Not that I don't have people, go to a resort and I.
Now that I mentioned
As
it, I did
a
see
castle, not that I don't have people come to a castle of horror and do seances. I wouldn't do that, but you guys aren't doing that.
Next time, Tony, the funny thing
Making
is,
sure.
I know you're joking, but the fact is, the next time we do an event, we could have a Castle of Horror seance. That's
I
a
want
great
to run
idea.
it. I think I'd be really good at that. I think
A Castle of Horror seance? Yeah.
Yeah, I could run a seance. I really know.
Yeah.
I actually know way more than I
But
probably should about
we need to somehow convince while you're doing this. We need to somehow convince to dress up as the white ghost and the dark ghost.
Yeah.
I want to see the budget for trumpets and slide whistles, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that's the only real way
We
to
could
make
enlist
a good one.
our children and your wives to do the sound effects occasionally, just to go woo.
Yeah.
Yep.
I feel as though we are off track. And I
Really?
No.
No way.
That idea.
That's never happened in the history of this podcast.
Again, this is where people go, I'm with your daughter. Like, this is
Like, yeah, we're gonna go now. Thanks.
Paul
Do we have
Marco.
anything left to say? I was gonna say, do you have anything left to say about this film?
I do. Just really quick. I just thought it was really great that Paul Marco was the nicest guy. Truly. I mean, I never talked to him. He's dead now, but in interviews that he was doing in the 90s, it was so funny. He's one of those ones who was just like so thrilled to be talking about these movies, and he thought they were hilarious, and he enjoyed like showing people around like where the sets were and stuff. It's just kind of cool that Kelton, who like kind of exists on his own plane in this movies, that continues with the actor who's just like, oh yeah, it was a great time. I played a goofy cop in the 50s, and that's just kind of neat. It's cool that Marco, that was the legacy really in the end was Paul Marco having a ball telling people about being in Plan 9. So I don't have anything else to say. I do absolutely want us to do a seance event. That is absolutely going to happen.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll get my stuff ready. I've got crystals. I've got all kinds of stuff. I've got
Well,
tarot
what would you
cards.
guys think about?
We've got runes.
Let me throw this out here. We could do such an event. We could actually do. What if we did like a Castle of Horror cruise? Like we go on a cruise.
Mm-mm.
No,
No, I'm not doing a cruise.
Well,
no way.
I mean, when are we talking
after
about
COVID,
this?
after
Yeah.
quarantine.
If
Yeah,
there's
yeah, yeah.
ever
Just to
if
clarify.
there's ever an after COVID.
Yeah, context is important because
Yeah.
right now, no.
No.
I'm not
I mean,
a cruise
someday.
anyway. Like,
Yeah.
that's not really me.
Okay, well, very good. Okay, then maybe a resort, maybe like the Cloud Forest Resort, in
Castle of
Nicaragua
Horror
or something
retreat.
like that.
Yeah, Castle of
a
Horror
Castle
retreat.
of Horror retreat. It's kind of a wonderful idea. We could, especially again, if we were like in the mountains, someplace spooky. I think that would be groovy. Do seances, watch movies.
I find it
Oh.
fascinating. You think we get enough people who want to hang out with us for that?
No, I know where we can go. Drew, can we borrow your friend's cabin, the haunted cabin?
I could talk to them.
That would
see
be
what they
that
say.
would be awesome.
You mean the literal cabin
literally
in the
haunted
woods.
cabin?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's probably not enough people to have an event. It's or not big enough.
I don't know how they would feel about us having other people there, but they might be okay with like us.
Yeah, it could be a cyber. We do the seance and then other people join virtually.
All right. Well, I'm dreaming big.
Or
I'm
this
thinking,
just turns into a horror film because Julia summons the spirit of Tor Johnson and Lobo goes on a rampage. That he should have gone in this movie, but didn't.
If he had run in and just smashed the table, just full on toward Johnson smashing things, that would have been amazing.
Poor guy keeps getting shot. I felt bad for him.
Oh yeah.
But he's an atomic monster, so he just.
I love how they're like, oh well, that would I don't know how much longer he has. He has 3 slugs in him. That would have killed somebody that was normal, or killed any other guy, or something like that.
Well, again, he's an atomic Superman. I mean, and we established that in the last one. So he's he can deal with bullets. He can absorb them, and
yeah. Still, I still feel bad. I'm sure. It
Okay.
hurts.
So we should get our final thoughts. And the way we went, it was Tony, Julia, Drew. Did I miss something? I know I went through this whole movie. There may very well be details I missed, and so if you want to throw any in there, that's totally cool. I hope I've given some reason why I think this was actually pretty enjoyable. But it's totally cool if you don't agree. So Tony, what are your final thoughts on Night of the Ghouls?
I like a lot of the bits, and I think there's still, I love it also, again, for warts and all, there's a sincerity to Ed Wood's work that I really dig. It doesn't feel forced or disingenuous. It feels like, hey, I'm making these cool things, and this is what I like to make. And so that stuff I dig, and I think there's a lot of great bits. This one, to me, just didn't gel as well. This was very much the oil and water version of this, where, other things kind of mix a little better. There's idea-wise, I think there's still some great stuff here. It just doesn't quite come together in a way that some of the other films, and, it has, again, he's got a body of work that's really interesting, and I like the surreal aspects of a lot of it. But if someone were to take a shot at, this is the things, this is, and get ironic about it, which I don't really condone, this would probably be where the kind of film that would lead to that. And that's unfortunate. But I mean, again, there's tons of other movies. I would rather watch this than a lot of other movies, more modern movies. Because I still find fascinating bits. I mean, this kind of stuff would have been ripe to, it's kind of a shame it didn't come out till later, because it would have been ripe to rip off. I could see, an 80s music video director ripping off a lot of stuff like this, because it would be so cool in that kind of short form. And, it's got a bunch of great stuff. I wish I had liked it more, especially as it's kind of closing this all out. But I'm not, I'm not unhappy that I watched it.
Yeah.
I would lump it in and go, hey, if you're going to watch a body of work, this one still has some cool bits in it. Beautiful.
Thank you very much. Julia, final thoughts.
Yeah, I definitely don't think it's boring, at least not most of it. There's some boring parts, but mostly I think it's just weird. Like I say, there's some things where I'm just like, I wish that you would have, that this little details that distract me so much that I'm just, the thing with the slide whistle, super annoying. The thing with the door with the hole in it. Those kind of things where I'm just, I really feel like they could have not done that, and that would have been better. But I think it's weird enough and funny in some parts on purpose, and other parts not on purpose, but still funny, that it's worth at least watching once, maybe just once. And not necessarily, I just don't think it's the worst thing I've ever seen. I feel like it's got some value to it. Like I say, I think it inspired some people. And there's some good creepy images, like Drew was saying about that. The ghosts look really good, and there's some neat just things that you could just freeze and go, this is kind of cool looking. So it's definitely not one of my favorites, but it's not something that I feel is a waste of space in the world.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Drew, final thoughts.
I enjoyed talking about this movie, if nothing else. And like Joe was just saying, there certainly was some visuals that I think will stay with me, but I definitely don't think this is going to be a movie I will like. Plan 9 is a movie I revisit periodically. Bride of the Monster is a movie I probably will now revisit more than I like. Because I had a reassessment of it. And it also has the added interest of having Bela Lugosi in it. This isn't a movie I think that I will watch very often, if at all, if ever again, because I just, I like 50s movies. There's a lot of this on paper that seems like it would be a movie that I would like, but it just didn't really speak to me the way it did, I guess, yourself or, others, but that's okay, and again, I did get something out of the conversation. It was a fun movie to talk about. So sometimes with the movies we do, that's the best to hope for with it. Other than that, I don't think my assessment of it has changed much. I think I would have, in retrospect, would have rather done the monster stripper movie.
If we ever get an extra week, we should go back and do Orgy of the Dead, because we really came like this close. We came scraping distance away from doing Orgy of the Dead instead of Night of the Ghouls. And we did Night of the Ghouls so that this could be like a complete trilogy. But Orgy of the Dead, which apparently has almost no plot, we probably should get back to sometime just to enjoy the go-go dancers and so forth. But thank you, Drew. Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy some of the images of this movie, and I enjoy the ending where the spooks come alive and drag away the con artist. And I also like the very sort of sweet thing about how the white ghost, who was a con artist, was set upon by the black ghost and became a ghost herself. I like that too. I like the idea that this is all really just the origin of the white ghost. That's cool stuff. But again, there's so much incompetence in Ed Wood, or surrealism, depending from moment to moment. I can't even decide what I'm seeing. So, there you go. But wow. That, I might watch it again, actually, just because it looks like a really cool movie to just have playing on a big screen while you're doing other stuff. Okay, I'm dying to know what you guys would endorse. We're going to start with Tony, and the great thing is Tony's actually been busy today with Fantastic Fest. So, Tony, what do you have in your pockets? What are you going to tell us about?
So Fantastic Fest, of course, couldn't happen in person, and it's not happening exactly in the same way that some of the other film festivals I talked about have been doing things. Alamo Drafthouse has their Alamo on Demand service. So for Fantastic Fest, they've tied it in with a thing called Scener, and you can get people commenting, and there's a chat feature that tends to be used mostly, hopefully in the beginning and end, like for people to catch up. But yeah, I've seen several movies that are really cool. There was a French werewolf movie called Teddy, and they do a lot with a lower budget, and they kind of knew their budget. There's a really cool. What's also cool is if you can catch these films on Alamo on Demand, because some of them come back, you can also watch the commentaries and the Q&A. Like right now, I see the Teddy Q&A is up for rent on the site on Alamo on Demand. So that's really cool. I've been trying to make sure people can do that. I saw a stop motion movie called Old Man Movie, which is from Estonia, and it was insane. It wasn't as crass as, say, like a lot of the Spike and Mike kind of stuff, but it kind of was just on the verge of that flavor, and that was really, really fun. Also, if Jason and Julie, you might appreciate this having left, but if you remember Master Pancake, they had a 20th anniversary Invasion of the Bee Girls Master Pancake, and that's actually, if people missed that and it sounds cool, how it started was there was a demand for, hey, Tim League, why don't you show Mystery Science Theater episodes, because it had gone off the air, and he instead found some local comedians to kind of do their own thing. And I think it was originally called Mr. Sinus.
Yeah.
And that sounded too close.
That's what I thought of it as.
They changed it to Master Pancake. And they started doing, they did some lower budget movies and then did blockbuster movies for a little while, and that got them more popular. They did an amazing Christmas Master Pancake each year. But the first one especially was just amazing. So they had a screening last night where they, did their usual, live commentary, and Owen and John are great people and really fun comedians to listen to and watch. But that's actually coming out. They're going to put it back up on Alamo on Demand on Monday. So tomorrow. So if that sounds
wonderful. That sounds like a blast. We definitely have to watch that. Yeah.
Yeah. And, these are paid, some of this is you sign up for free. So there's still stuff that people can RSVP to. So if you go to Alamo on Demand, there's stuff up there that you can watch. It's great. Some of it's free, some of it's not. Also, they had today I watched a beautiful 4K restoration of Daughters of Darkness. And what's even more interesting is, I hope they don't mind me kind of revealing some stuff from the Q&A, but there was a Q&A. It's also, I haven't checked, but I think the Q&A would still be part of if you have to digitally buy the movie if you do it from Alamo on Demand. It's like $13 $12.99. But in addition to it just being beautiful, the director had a hand in the restoration. So even for Jason and I, who have seen this movie a lot, there's something new to it because of how he was able to tweak the colors and really pay attention to how the restoration happened. And it is really, really nice. But yeah, I've been, watching movies off and on through there, and there's still free stuff. There's stuff for really cheap the first time. I think there's some stuff for like $3, and they're often testing. If you sign up, they're testing stuff so you can get a 6-pack of Alamo Drafthouse films. I don't know if they're still doing that, but basically, so you can test the Scener plugin that goes with Chrome. But you can still watch the stuff through Alamo On Demand, and there's more throughout the week that I'll be talking about. There was a secret screening, and I'm not sure. I still see it listed as secret screening, so I'm gonna hedge my bets and not announce anything. But if they say what it is, I'm gonna put it out there because it was an enjoyable, action-packed movie that not a lot of people have seen, and it's tied into Texas, so it was pretty enjoyable. Rain watched it with me, so that's not to belabor it, but that my Fantastic Fest is usually my staycation, and I talk about those films a lot, and we talk about them throughout the year. But this time, anybody who's listening now can join in and watch these movies on Alamo On Demand. That's kind of cool. So if you see something you like, then now you can do this.
That's very cool.
There's a movie called Bloodthirsty that looks of course I haven't seen it yet, but it's later in the week that I'm kind of stoked about. So but I posted all the links on our social media. So but if you have questions, of course engage, and I'll try to provide what I can, because it's pretty cool.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. And I think this Halloween, it depends on what, if I believe we're going to talk about Vampire Lovers. So I don't think, unfortunately, the Harry Kummel Q&A will just simply have to be for our own edification. I don't think it'll play into that show, but cool, man. Thank you very much. All right, Miss Julia, what about you? Do you have anything that you wanted to share?
I don't think I have anything today. I think because I'm still kind of watching the things that I talked about in the last, that you and I talked about in the last couple weeks. So, I don't think I have anything new right now.
Yeah, because we were really into The Vow and really into Lovecraft Country, for sure.
Right, and then of course I'm watching The Masked Singer, the new season, but I've talked about that in the past. I love The Masked Singer. It's nothing. Actually, I'll save it for when I do my own thing. Drew, what about you?
Well, I want to recommend a Dutch movie I watched on Shudder called Uncaged, or it's also known as Prey in some services, I guess. But it is a killer lion on the loose in, I guess, Amsterdam, and it's directed by the same guy who made Saint, which is the crazy killer Santa Claus movie we watched last December. And it's not like a great movie. It's not going to change your life, but it's like a creature on the loose. It's just a lot of fun. Like you have this wheelchair bound lion hunter trying to, quint his way through the movie. And he's the only character who speaks any English. It's entirely in Dutch for the most part, except for this lion hunter who is from Britain. And I had a ball watching it. It's gory, it's goofy. It's all the things you want from a creature on the loose movie. And it's not a movie I've seen a whole lot of people talking about, because Shudder has a lot of cool stuff on their service, so it's real easy for things to get overlooked. And this is one I just watched completely on a whim, and I had such a good time with it. The other thing I want to point out, tomorrow on the 29th, the day before New Comic Book Day, strangely enough, there is a new issue of Halloween Man coming out. As I was saying, we have a new issue coming out every 2 weeks until the end of October. And
fantastic.
This one is called 20 Flight Rock. And it's a really fun kind of monster of the week style Halloween Man story about ghouls. So it ties into this episode.
Did you say it's tomorrow?
Comes out tomorrow on Comicsology.
Is there anything else about tomorrow? Something? Oh, that's right. It's your
it
birthday.
Comes out on
It's your
Tuesday.
birthday.
Tomorrow is my birthday.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I've survived another rotation around the sun. Thank you. Yes, so I'll endorse aging. How about that? I'll endorse dying.
Surviving.
Yeah. Surviving 2020 thus far.
Thus far.
Thus far. I'm a little, as the meme says, I'm a little worried about the series finale. But yeah. So yeah, that's all I got for this week.
That's wonderful. I've one thing that I watched that I just am in love with, which is Lisa and the Devil, which is this I can't believe we've never discussed this on the show, but there's so many, right? So Lisa and the Devil is a 1973 Mario Bava movie, and it is so gorgeous. The colors are fantastic. And it's about this. Well, and it has Telly Savalas as maybe the devil, and the really groovy thing about it is that Lisa and the Devil is about this girl who gets separated from her tour group and winds up taking a ride to this house, but unfortunately the rich people who live in the house are engaged in all their own weird psychosexual drama and wind up murdering one another, maybe, and then it gets strange. There's mannequins and Telly Savalas again as maybe the devil. But then the movie didn't do very well. It's like Mario Bava's most beautiful movie, but Lisa and the Devil didn't do very well. So then, because it was 1973, The Exorcist came out, and so the studio decided, you know what people want more of is more Exorcist movies. So they actually had somebody reshoot an exorcism frame story around Lisa and the Devil, and so Lisa and the Devil was then cut down to hold on to this frame story, complete with Robert Alda as a priest who's come to deal with this possessed woman who goes, oh, let me tell you my flashback, and the flashback is the Mario Bava movie Lisa and the Devil, and then that got released as House of Exorcism, a completely bonkers film that is impossible to follow, and so you can watch Lisa and the Devil on YouTube, and then you can watch House of Exorcism on, weirdly enough, on Amazon and Canopy, the legit places, which is really strange because House of Exorcism is not a film that I would recommend on its own merits, and Lisa and the Devil is pretty wild and pretty cool. So that's where I've been hanging out, is at Italy 1973, which is where you can find me most of the time. So that was cool. And the other thing is, I would like to ask our listeners for advice on this one. I want to watch a whole bunch of Halloween episodes of classic TV shows. I think that would be a blast to watch as many of them in October as I can manage to fit in while trying to write another book. So if you can think of a great Halloween special Halloween episode of a TV series, put the link on our Facebook page or on our Twitter or whatever, and I'll tweet out recommendations as they come in, because I want recommendations for Halloween episodes to watch in October. Halloween episodes of shows are just something that it's a comfort food. It makes me feel good about the season. So I want your recommendations. Yeah,
better than the Paul Lynde Halloween special.
Well, that's a Halloween special, and that's a perfectly valid. But I'm talking about Halloween episodes of shows.
So the Halloween episode of Al, to clarify.
Right. That's a fantastic, yeah, exactly.
Well, and all of the Halloween episodes of The Simpsons are amazing. Every single one.
They are, and that's an excellent example, although it's so well known that I'll bet you that I've probably seen them all. But if you came and said, hey, have you seen the Three's Company Halloween episode? The answer is no. I don't even know if one exists.
Tell our friends what Halloween episode we watched today. Did you already mention it?
Today, because I command the television, we watched the
commanded the television for 1 hour. We
watched the Halloween episode of 21 Jump Street. One of them. There's a couple
Johnny
Halloween
Depp.
episodes starring Johnny Depp and Peter DeLuise, and it was fabulous.
It was really good. It was actually Drew, you would like it. There's a Ghostbusters nod.
Yeah. Yes.
My interest is piqued.
Yeah.
Somebody mentioned Ghost. I didn't take it. I need to go back and read the comment, but somebody summoned me commenting about Ghostbusters 2 on the Castle of Horror Facebook.
Really?
Yeah. I believe if I recall, I believe they thought I was a little too kind to that movie. I of course disagree.
Everybody has opinions,
everybody
right?
can have, yeah. I mean, things work for somebody. You talk about TV episodes. I found it fascinating because I found this article that talked about that Will Smith's ode to Freddy Krueger surfaces on YouTube, and I was like, who doesn't remember Nightmare on My Street? And I realize it's because anybody younger than me, but I guess because the video was thought to like have.
I
been
don't remember
destroyed.
this. Is this a Will Smith? Was
Yeah.
this like a Fresh Prince video?
He like
Yeah,
lays
it was
down
called Nightmare on My
Street.
Street.
Yeah, he like lays down a beat. It's to the Nightmare on Elm Street theme music. It's actually
I get it. That's groovy.
Yeah.
I had no memory of that at all. There you go. DJ
Well,
Jazzy
I guess
Jeff.
I was wrong because I saw the thing and I was like, really? It resurfaces as if it was lost forever. But I guess maybe they have something. But I just thought it was funny. It was just funny to me because Nightmare on My Street was something that I remember was super popular at the time. And
well, if you were putting together a collection of 1980s like hip hop, and with a Halloween theme, I think that would be a really groovy.
Oddly, the Fat Boys also had a Freddy Krueger rap song.
Oh yeah, are you ready for Freddy?
Awesome. Yeah.
Oh man, that was the time. I missed
Roseanne had Halloween episodes. Highway to Heaven, I know, had a Halloween episode. But I know
where he dresses up like the teenage werewolf.
That's right. And he actually wanders
by.
It's
meta.
He sees it on TV and he goes, "I was never that young." Yeah. The joke doesn't land quite as much because he's an angel, so it doesn't matter. But, yeah.
Hey, if in the Van Helsing movie, as Van Helsing, but he was also an angel, but he was also a werewolf, so it totally works.
Yes.
Totally works.
Yes. Anyway, so I'm serious as a heart attack. I want people's recommendations of Halloween episodes.
There's I bet. I want to see stuff like Halloween episode of Knight Rider.
Oh man, I would love that.
Halloween episode of the A-Team. I'm sure there probably was a thing.
It's got to be, right?
Yeah.
You brought up the Dukes of Hazzard. I'm sure there was a Halloween episode of the Dukes of Hazzard.
Well, I don't know, man.
I think we're living.
there might have been.
I think we're living the Halloween episode of the Dukes of Hazzard.
I don't even. I
actually, Knight Rider's Halloween episode was just called Halloween Night.
Are you serious? There really was one?
Yes.
Wow.
It says season 3, episode 5. So
wow.
I like weird crap like that. So because I think
absolutely.
a lot of most comedy series have a Halloween episode because a lot of times they'll have kids and it'll be about trick or treating or is it spooky or whatever. But when you have a drama, like another one would be just. What was a Halloween episode of Dallas?
What one was great? The Halloween episode of The Fall Guy because it had Elvira on it.
Are you serious?
Snap. That's
right.
Yeah.
That's a heart attack, Jason.
Now I remember that. Yeah.
All right. Well, we need to, on the Facebook page, start gathering together links to as many of these as possible. Because I'm serious. I find it very calming to escape into Halloween episodes of TV series. Really.
How wholesome. I said that's very wholesome, actually.
I thank you very much. Yeah. So there we go. And I also find doing this show very calming. So I thank you guys for being here. And we are journeying into the 30s next week, and it's going to be super fun. And thank you very much. I hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Give me your Halloween ideas, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.